Another wonderful bringing in by the Millennial Frog. My name's Josh. Here today with Adam.
Yes, greetings.
This is No Party Preference. Today we're going to talk about the recent thing that happened just a few days ago where RFK Jr. got removed from the ballot in New York. But before we get to that, if you want to listen to all of our podcasts, go to GameRageMagazine.com. You can also follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine, Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag, YouTube, Game Rage Magazine. Furthermore, if you want to hear a pretty all right podcast about music, go listen to the All Gas No Trash podcast and follow Adam on Instagram at All Gas No Trash Official. Also, if you're one of those fucking people that like anime, we have an anime podcast. You can go to anime_syndicate_podcast at Instagram or on Instagram and follow the Anime Syndicate podcast and listen to it. Just like everything else on all the things that I just talked about. So, anyways, RFK. Personally, I simply do not like this guy because I don't like nepotism. All right? I don't
Lineage, legacy.
No, I don't like that. I fucking hate it. I hate it when it comes to governance. I think it's fucking ridiculous. I think that's the stupidest shit ever. I think that we need to go away from that.
Eradication.
The problem is with this thing, it's pushing the result that I want, but not for the reason that I want it. They're not doing it because they want to go away from legacy. They're doing it because they don't want this guy to have a chance to take away from the two big candidates, right? That's the whole reason they're doing this. The whole reason they're trying to invalidate his whole candidacy. And I personally do think the Democrats might have fucked up. Instead of, when Biden stepped down, I feel like they should have just said, hey guys, we need to wipe the slate clean. It has been done before where the incumbent president was not going to run for president. It has happened before. I think you just wipe it clean. I think they probably should have just went with RFK Jr. as a tactical, strategic move. That would have been a smart move to make. But again, it's not the right move it's not the move we need. Him getting taken off of the ballot, it's so fucking oxymoronical because hooray, fuck this guy. I'm glad he's being removed. But also, well shit. Now I only got to choose from Trump and fucking Harris. Not that I was going to choose RFK either way, and not that I'm going to choose either of them to begin with, but now people's choices are being limited and further ingrained in this one or the other. Douche or a turd sandwich, right? As South Park put it. They're like, no, man, you can't have more than two choices. You got to pick one. We can't be having 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people fucking running for president. And honestly, I think maybe we need to go to that. I think maybe we need to have 5 fucking people, and whoever gets more than 25% of the vote wins the goddamn election.
So something like Canada.
Kinda, maybe. I don't know. But then also that's how you get Hitler in charge. So then I don't know. Maybe that's not even the right answer. Because that's kind of how Hitler got in charge, was they were just the majority in the thing, but they weren't the majority in the country. So here you go. And then you get shit happening, and then some little fuckboy sneaks his way in and then goes, I'm going to take all the power for myself.
I think the only reason that two parties exist is because everything has been consolidated. A lot of the principles or even concerns about whatever problems exist within the country can usually be summarized within one party. The way people feel about it. Fiscally, conservatives believe that there should be less taxes and all that jazz, right?
Yeah.
For the regular American. Also, the least amount of government possible, with the exception that should there ever be a war, we at least have a standing army.
Right, yeah, true. That's basically what I think the federal government should do. Collective defense. And maybe, make sure the states aren't violating our constitutional rights. Like, that's basically it. That's all they should really be doing. They shouldn't be fucking about with anything else, I think. And when we look at the reason, when we go back to this Robert Kennedy thing, the reason why they fucking invalidated his petition to be on the ballot, or they removed him from it.
From what state?
New York, the state of New York. They removed it by saying that the address that he listed was a sham address and that he really lives in California or whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying, but they're saying that you can't run for the president of the United States and not live in the state. Like, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump don't live or maintain addresses in the state of New York. So why are they being allowed to? Also, how stupid would that be? So you're saying that, I have to live in all 50 fucking states. I have to have an address in all 50 states to be able to run for president? That doesn't even fucking make sense. But that's the weird fucking rule that they're using to specifically remove him from the ballot. So,
are you sure it's that?
I read it on PBS. It's PBS. This is like a legitimate thing. It says, New York invalidated the petition, blah, blah, blah. It said that the residence listed on his nominating petitions was a sham address he used to maintain his voter registration and to further his political aspirations. The judge ruled in favor of the challengers, who argued Kennedy's actual residence was the home in Los Angeles that he shares with his wife, who apparently was on Curb Your Enthusiasm, I guess.
Okay, so fuck. I really don't understand that part, because I mean, if you were running for governor of fucking California, like, yeah, you would want him to reside. You would reside. But as far as like being a national figure, like the president of the United States, what the fuck does it matter what state you reside in?
I agree. This makes no fucking sense. This is clearly, people like to throw the election interference word around. To me, this is judicial interference in an election, because you are coming up with a bullshit reason to keep someone off the ballot, right? This is state judicial interference in an election. Because, goddamn it, even though I don't like the guy, I still think he should have the right to be on the ballot. If he got the signatures and did what needed to be done, he should be able to be on the ballot. But here we go. And now these things are starting to cause question. And again, if there are many states that want to do the same thing to him, and they were waiting for this hearing in New York to happen so that they could kind of say, what's New York going to say? So then they can go, let's just copy and paste that into our thing and say that we're doing it for the same reason. And so that's now what's being talked about, is because, again, this just happened like 3 or 4 days ago. So
it's like precedents for that.
So if New York sets the precedent of a judge ruling and saying, you put the address that wasn't in New York, that's a fake address in New York, and you live in LA, so you can't be on the fucking ballot. If they do that, because he used the same New York address in Pennsylvania, in all these other states that are challenging, that challenges have come up to him being on the ballot, right?
Yeah.
He used that same address. So now the theory, and I don't even think it's a theory, I think it's just it's a logical conclusion as to what happens in the legal world. Once a precedent gets set, all other courts will go, oh, cool, that guy did it, now we're going to do the same thing. So it makes it easy for them. So everybody was just waiting for this judge in New York to figure out what the fuck he was going to do. Because if he would have said, no, we get what he's trying to say, we understand, you can't tell him, oh, whatever, just that he doesn't live at this address in New York, who fucking cares? If I was the judge, I'd be like, you don't need to live in all 50 fucking states. You tell me he's got to maintain an address in every single state.
I don't know if that's the argument that's being made, though.
That is the argument that's being made, is that they're saying that the argument was that he used an address that he didn't reside at, is what the challengers said. And the judge upheld it by saying, yes, it's a sham address because he keeps to his voter registration there, but he actually lives like in LA or whatever, is what the judge was saying. But here's the other problem.
But what does that have to do with 50 other states about having an address for 50 other states?
Well, but that's what I'm saying, is because they're saying that he used that same address on all the other fucking states, right? So if they're saying,
I got you. Okay.
So then every other state that a challenge came up, they can just say, oh yeah, you use the same address here, so we're going to say the same thing.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Oh, well, you don't reside at that address, so that way that's the issue we're going to cause, and say, oh, well, since you don't reside there. But here's the other thing. You can live in multiple states at the same time, and you can split your time between multiple states. So like, he's from New York. Yeah, he lives in LA or whatever. He has a house in LA, but that doesn't mean he spends the full time of his year out here in LA. Where does he pay fucking state income tax to? Does he because in California, you got to live here for more than 6 months out of the year to have to pay income tax. Or if you fucking earned the money here in the state, you got to pay state income tax on it.
Yeah.
But if he's paying New York state income tax, well, then he has residency regardless of how long he actually stays at the address that he listed on there. So I think it's just some bullshit reason that they're using to throw him off. And then now, if New York boots him out, he's going to take away. I don't think RFK Jr. is going to be taking any fence sitters that are on the Republican side. I don't think he's going to be taking any Republican votes from Trump. I think he's primarily would be siphoning votes off of Kamala Harris. And with all of the polls and everything now, no one knows what to believe. It was Trump going to whoop her ass so bad. Then they were tied. Then Kamala was like way ahead whooping his ass. Now they're back to like being very close again. So if this race is going to be that close, you can't have some other guy stealing votes from you to take states from you. Like, you can't allow that, right? Now, strategically, that's the mentality, but morally and what should happen in a truly free and open election that's the way the cookie crumbles, bitch. This guy should be allowed to run. And if he pulls 2 states from you and you lose the election because of that.
Why do you assume you're making an assumption that you're making it seem like Harris is conspiring against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to eliminate any chance that that's a lot of.
I'll say this.
That's a lot of fucking.
You're right. I didn't clarify my state. I'm not saying that Kamala Harris is doing this at all, or her campaign. My full belief is that this is the Democratic Party doing this as a party, as a whole. Like, the organization is the Democratic Party. They're behind this. Or the Republican Party is behind this because they want votes to get sniped from, they want states, if states get sniped from Kamala Harris, if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. wins 2 or 3 states, well, that's electoral votes that she's not going to get that could be the difference maker. If they're in a close race, and let's say
it's going to be close. I think Kamala Harris is going to fucking win outright.
You think she's going to blow him out?
Yep.
You really think she's going to blow him out?
Yeah, simply on the principle that the choice between a convicted felon and somebody that doesn't have a criminal record and has actually held positions within our U.S. government and has education, done numerous things. And yeah, maybe it's not a perfect track record, but it's astronomically better than what the other option is.
I mean, yes, that is true. But there's a lot of fucking assholes that like Trump.
It's true.
So
but
I don't know. Is there enough people? And this is where I had said before, and I think that this is important. I think that I think in terms of the fervor or the fanaticists or fanatics, I guess is probably the right word. The fanatics that are on the Trump train are greater than the fanatics that are on the Kamala train, right? And there's a lot of people in the middle that are kind of like, I kind of like some of what this guy says. I kind of like, there's people that are fence sitting right now. I think the majority of Americans are kind of like, I don't know, I'm kind of still weighing it out. And I mean, if you throw in this third guy in the mix to some states that have a lot of electoral votes, well, like I said, that may pull away. And then the people in the middle that's 50-50. They could either go either way. Who knows?
I don't know if Robert F. Kennedy Jr. impact on elections can be overestimated, but I mean, shit, if you look at I would love to see what the actual numbers were for the Republican nomination working, because how quickly did Robert F. Kennedy Jr. drop out? Because he probably didn't have that significant of a voter turnout for this even to be. I feel like we're essentially making a mountain out of molehill.
Probably, but I mean, you might be right. But it's not even it's not that he's going to have an impact.
Yes, like
but on principle, though, yes.
Everything you said about him not being able to run as he's running as an independent candidate, correct?
Right, yeah.
I think he's very much entitled to do whatever the fuck he wants to do as far as that goes, and I think it is wrong, especially if it's over a dispute for residency about what state you belong to, when it's like a national election or a general election. Who the fuck cares where this motherfucker lives if it's for the U.S. president, as opposed to if this motherfucker was running for the governor of New York and he lived in L.A. Fuck yeah, like that totally makes sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's the thing about the electoral thing with Kennedy, right? He declared that this was the first time that he declared he was going to run for president. Was in 2023, like last year, right? That was the first time he declared it. He said that he was going to declare it, he did declare it, but also he declared it for a party where the sitting president was the incumbent. So they did not have like a true primary, because when the incumbent is your guy, he's going to be the guy to go around too, right? Like we don't really have hard data numbers of like how he would have done if they would have had a real legit primary and gone Kennedy versus Biden. We don't really know what would have happened because they didn't do it. They didn't allow it. So that's why he dropped his bid.
Who was he running? What party was he running? Because hasn't he swapped to?
Now he has, but he initially was saying as a Democrat, he's going to run for the Democratic vice president or the Democratic presidential nomination for 2024, right? That was what he was, then when he announced that's what he was going to do. He's going to try to take the Democrat nomination from Joe Biden, the incumbent sitting president, all right? That was his whole fucking thing when he first started doing it, was what he wanted to do. Because he was not pleased with the way Biden was doing things, and he didn't think that Biden could beat Trump again. So that was why he's like, oh, I'm going to go and fucking do this, right? But then when he bounced, he dropped out from the Democratic primary.
Because he couldn't fucking win.
There would be no way, because Biden's going to get 80 or 90% of the vote. So he said that's when he said he would run as an independent. And then he was nominated as a candidate for the Libertarian Party, but he got eliminated in the first round of the Libertarian Party.
So why the fuck are we having this discussion?
That makes sense because the Libertarians, like Robert F. Kennedy, does not espouse libertarian values. Like he's not very many of them. So it makes sense why he wouldn't get on the Libertarian ticket, because he's not a fucking Libertarian. He doesn't believe those things.
Why would he convince any fence sitters for the 2024 election to the point that it would matter?
Because he's got a name. Because he's got the name. He's got that Kennedy fucking name.
Apparently it doesn't fucking matter if people aren't voting for him.
Yeah, okay, well, again, we don't know that, though. We know in a libertarian, Robert F. Kennedy ain't a libertarian by any fucking stretch of the imagination. I can tell you that much right there. So there's no way he would do well in that.
Yes, but on principle of him switching parties already says this motherfucker is willing to do whatever to get where he can get in, but it also seems desperate as fuck.
Yeah, I agree. Because it's bullshit.
So therefore,
fuck this guy.
That means he's not doing as well as he think he could, or the prestige of the Kennedy name ultimately doesn't fucking matter because nobody gives a shit about this guy.
I don't think it will matter in the grand scheme that he'll get a ton of votes, but I'm just saying there's a possibility that, if he's on the ballot, maybe he fucking somehow accidentally wins a couple of states. And maybe it's close. Maybe the thing was close, and maybe that's a difference maker. That's what I was trying to look with the historical precedents of third party candidates like winning electoral votes. Oh, that's what I need to win.
It's too simple, man. It's too simple. People know what they like or they don't like, and they simplify themselves to one of the two parties, and independent is not one of them.
Yeah, that's true. Independent is definitely not fucking one of them. Who is the third votes? Zero placed. They don't have any electoral votes. I mean, 72. Let's do it by electoral votes. So the highest number of electoral votes that a third-party candidate has received was 88. And that was in 1912.
1912. Geez.
Theodore Roosevelt ran for the Progressive Party and lost, but he got, as a third-party candidate, got 88 electoral votes. And there's what, 531?
Okay, I don't remember my U.S. history too well, but what years was Theodore Roosevelt president? Was this...
Let's see. Wait a minute. Electoral votes. Okay, Theodore Roosevelt, 1912.
When was he?
He was president. He was president in fucking
1910s?
Let's see. He was the 26th president from 1901 to 1909. So this is after he fucking was president already.
And there wasn't a term limit on...
There wasn't a term limit. They didn't make the official term limit until after World War II when Franklin Delano Roosevelt was president for... He won 3 fucking terms.
Yeah.
But they were like, all right, guys, this was because of war. Now we need to put a limit. 2 is max. That's it. That's all you can be. You can be president for 2 years. That's it.
Yeah.
Or 2 terms. 2 4-year terms. So this was after he was president. And he lost. Mm-hmm. The next closest guy was 72, and that was John C. Breckinridge, who was the vice president of the United States at one time. But this was in 1860. He was the Lecompton Democratic Constitution Party. That's the fucking party he ran under. And then the Independent Party, the American Independent Party in 1968, George Wallace got 46 electoral votes.
So largely
ineffective.
Since the 60s, there hasn't been any significant impact of the independent party in terms of electoral votes.
On electoral votes, no. And okay, basically the last time it was relevant, it seems, was in 1968, that 46 votes that George Wallace got, because all of the other independent or third-party candidates got 0 electoral votes since then. Since 1968, they've had none. So the precedent in recent history is that he will likely end up with 0 as well. But overall, it shows in American history, it is a possibility that it could happen. So who knows? I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But principle of the matter is, you shouldn't take the asshole off of the ballot just because he fucking whatever bullshit. You shouldn't be making up bullshit reasons to take him off the ballot.
I agree on that. I definitely agree that this reason that they're coming up with for the residency thing is largely horseshit.
Yeah, indeed. So anyways, in closing, fuck the government, fuck RFK, fuck everybody, all right? But USA.
I was getting real patriotic during the Olympics. Like, fuck yeah, we're in the lead for the medal count.
Oh yeah, we won the Olympics handily. We whooped that ass. So, anyways, you can go listen to Chirping from the Pine. Me and Frank talked about it on the most recent episode. But anyways, that's it for us. Go to GameRageMagazine.com. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Game Rage Magazine. Twitter/X at Game Rage Mag. YouTube, Game Rage Magazine. All Gas No Trash official on Instagram. Anime_syndicate_podcast also on Instagram. And go listen to both the Anime Syndicate podcast as well as the All Gas No Trash podcast. Only on all the places I just told you about. And anywhere podcasts are fucking, hosted or sold. Anyways, that's it. Get fucked. Catch you on the next one.